Every now and again, I edit a video that I know is going to be one of those videos that causes a big stir in the comments. But with that said, I just finished watching through the edit of this video. Much like with my prediction on Arc Raiders last year, I think outside of Grand Theft Auto, this is going to be one of the biggest releases of the year, and most of you are going to hate it. All right, with Highguard completely stumbling out the gate, fumbling over itself, and tumbling down the stairs, a game that I have been personally waiting to talk about and hype up and give all of the flowers to is starting to get a lot of attention. And that's a game being made by a small little company named Valve. The game was first leaked in May of 2024 by internal playtesters, and since then, it has opened up to invite-only playtesters and has been garnering an audience and growing month over month to now just last week dropping their Old Gods New Blood major update and hitting a 24-hour peak of almost 100,000 players. That's right, 100K concurrent for a game that's not even available publicly yet and is already taking over the space. And I'm seeing more and more people talk about it. And I think now's the time that I want to just give it my flowers. I mentioned it in my last video on Highguard, that fucking tragedy of a live service title. Deadlock is different. Deadlock is a MOBA at its heart, at its core. It is a 6v6 game with 3 lanes. There's minions. If you guys don't know what a multiplayer online battle arena is, take League of Legends, but then turn it into a third-person shooter. So you could actually say take a game like Smite and, well, make it good. This video is releasing in January of 2026, and I say that to make a point that this game is consistently making changes. They're currently bringing in 6 new heroes to the game to make it a total of 38 heroes at the time of recording this video, and things are constantly changing and updating. Just last year, the game was built for 4 lanes of gameplay instead of the typical 3 that you see in most MOBAs. That has since been changed to make a 3-lane game very similar to something like a League of Legends. And I know a lot of my audience and a lot of the general gaming public is going to look at a game like this just from a visual aesthetic standpoint and loop it in with games like Highguard, games like Concord, games like Overwatch, the fucking magenta slop that we keep seeing over and over again. And while I can understand at the surface, first glance, this game looks very similar to a lot of those other games. But if you're a fan of Team Fortress, you can definitely see the similarities in the visual style of that cel-shaded, kind of more cartoony look, but now updated to fit this brand new, I want to say it's like steampunk New York detective noir world with a lot of really unique characters. And when we talk about these hero shooters, a lot of them feel very samey. We were playing Highguard the other day, and we're seeing a character that jumps up into the sky and drops spears down, and it just feels very samey, like we've seen it all before. But the one thing that I can give Deadlock a lot of credit for is there's 38 heroes in the game right now, and all of them are very, very unique with a lot of mechanics that you don't see in other MOBAs or other shooters. I am a Haze main, so if you guys don't know who Haze is a silent, stealthy assassin with SMGs who has this smoke ability that allows you to cloak into the shadows and move around the map very quickly. You can throw a silent knife at your opponents, which stuns them and kind of keeps them silenced for a few seconds. But I think the one thing that not a lot of people actually understand about Deadlock is the fact that you can play these characters in a ton of different ways. So in your typical MOBA, as you're killing minions and doing objectives around the map, you're unlocking souls that can be used to purchase items within the game that boost your character up. And Deadlock has that same kind of feature. But what's really cool is you can actually make your own builds for your characters, and you can actually upload them for everybody else to use. So there's a built-in browser for builds that are being used and utilized by players at, the top level, the sweaty, the competitive players. And you can actually see which builds are being utilized more and more every day. And you can grab the top builds and you can experiment. And there's this robust item building system that allows you to change and test metas with new updates on the fly. And it's incredibly robust, and it's something that we don't really see in a lot of these other MOBA style games. And I think that's one thing that I don't think a lot of people realize about Deadlock is just how competitive and how in-depth this item system can be. The game is incredibly competitive. And if you've played any sort of MOBA, you can understand that feeling of, you know, getting the tower, killing the minions, getting a player kill, how important it is, and that fucking dopamine rush that you get from playing Deadlock is unlike anything else that I have ever experienced. I'm not a big League of Legends player, and this is where kind of my angle of this comes in. I'm not a big League player. I've never really been a fan of MOBAs. I don't like having to click everywhere on screen 100 million fucking times. I don't find that gameplay generally very fun. Now, if you guys are fans of the channel, you know I am a huge fan of third-person shooters. So the idea and the gameplay loop of a MOBA is really appealing to me. It's very competitive. I like the unique heroes. I like the ability system. But then when you combine that with a third-person shooter, it takes my love for the game to a whole other level. Now, I've been playing this game since September of 2024, so going on about a year and a half now. And we've played it through the good times, through the bad, through, you know, changing metas when certain characters are super overpowered, down to when the player base is sitting at, you know, 8,000 to 10,000 players. Now the game is growing. A major update is dropped, the Old Gods, New Blood. And in my opinion, this is now setting the stage for what's going to be a huge 2026 for Deadlock. This is the time where I'm looking at the update, I'm looking at the changes to the UI, the artwork that's all coming in now, and that's one thing that's been great to see as well, is just watching the artwork and the character models get swapped up for updated models with different cell shade and just looking better and better every single update. And now I feel like we're at a time where if you're gonna say this game's launching into early access very, very soon, I could see it. And I really do think that this is going to be the route for Valve to go. I think we're going to see a release in 2026, which is incredible because we're sitting at, you know, a 24-hour peak of 100,000 players. It's invite only right now. So the only way to get into the game is to know somebody who has access to the game and they can invite you on their Steam friends list. And so that kind of exclusivity while also pushing these kind of numbers, I think if this game launches in 2026 and is open to the public, early access or whatever, I think this is going to be one of the biggest multiplayer shooters that hits Steam. And I know a lot of you guys know me for the tactical shooters, the Hell Let Looses, the Ready or Nots, but I have to say, like, as a competitive shooter, there hasn't been a multiplayer game that gives me this level of competitive drive that Deadlock does. And granted, I'm not sitting here and playing on the pickup tournaments. There's an esports scene building for this game already. I'm not that fucking good. I'm unk status in my goddamn 30s. I'm not going to be there, but it's really fun to watch those kind of players perform at such a high level. But I love the game. It is one of my favorite multiplayer shooters. And, you know, just on the back of Highguard being as ass as it fucking was, and seemingly watching the internet kind of come together and collectively give Deadlock its flowers, I mentioned it in my last video. I wanted to just let you guys know that just like how I felt with Arc Raiders last year when I got to play Tech Test 2, and I said if that game launches or when that game launches, it is going to take over the internet. I'm saying right now that Deadlock is going to be the biggest game on Steam when it launches, whenever. I'm hoping soon because it's starting to feel like it's a game that could go to an early access phase right now and fucking kill it. When I mention Deadlock on socials, there are people that chime in and say, yeah, but why don't you talk about how broken the metas are, or how broken this character is, or how unbalanced this is? And don't get me wrong, there are balancing changes that absolutely need to happen. The game is by no means perfect, but I think when you have a game like this where there's so many different heroes, there's so much, you know, changing meta, and having the players be able to actually build their own loadouts, test different abilities, see how they combine with other ones, you're going to run into issues. And I think that's why, yeah, in the last video I made on Deadlock, I think about a year ago, I said this is the way to do early access proper. This is the way to do game development with community focus and with community feedback and community testing in mind. These guys are actually allowing people to just play the game, which I know is such like a novel concept. We are the test beds. We are playing the game. We're enjoying the game, and we're finding bugs. We're finding balance changes, and we're finding issues with the current meta, and they're making changes and they're balancing, and it feels like it's actually community-driven development done right. They're not sitting here communicating with us every single fucking minute of every single day, but the changes that they're making are monumental in terms of game development. Like this huge update that they just dropped is something that, like, God forbid a AAA studio would drop an update this huge. 6 new heroes, a complete rework of all of the UI, all of the art, 2 new abilities. I'm not sure how big the dev team is working on Deadlock, but I have to say, as somebody who has been a part of this development cycle since 2024, it's been nothing short of incredible. There have been moments, there have been times where we're waiting too long for an update, or we're wondering where the communication is and they've kind of gone radio silent. But every time an update comes that is like this, it is monumental to the point where you get the faith back. And it's one of the most addicting games that I have played in quite some time. I really want to make coverage on games like, you know, Hell Let Loose and Arma Reforger. I love those games. Everybody follows me for my tactical roots, but like, guys, I'm a competitive player at heart. Call of Duty doesn't give that to me. Battlefield doesn't give me that competitive feel anymore. There's really no good shooters on the market that can give me the competitive feel that a game like Deadlock does. And what's crazy is how you know that this game is fucking hitting for me is when I'm playing Battlefield, I'm looking at the progression. I'm looking at what I can unlock. What am I working towards? What are my challenges? What am I doing? What am I working for? Because I have to be working for something in a game like that, because there's no dopamine hit the way that Deadlock did. Deadlock has none of that. There's no skins to unlock right now. There's no challenges. There's no progression. We're all simply just playing the game. And it's so fun that the gameplay loop itself is addicting enough that I want to keep playing. And if Valve does come out with this game maybe later on in the year, and if they have, you know, a skin system or a battle pass system or whatever, it's just going to give me more incentive to literally play this game full time. I know a lot of my fans aren't going to like Deadlock. Trust me, I totally get it. It's not a tactical shooter. It's not a realistic shooter. It's not a military shooter. It's not a tactical, ground-based, grounded, realistic shooter. You know what it is, though? It's one of the most fun and enjoyable shooters that I've played in a very long time. And I know just watching the gameplay, there's going to be people that are going to compare it to a million different games. And I know that's going to happen. Trust me, I totally get it. I did the same thing when I first saw the game. All I'm going to say is if you have an opportunity to play it, if you have a friend who has access to it, tell them to invite you and try it out for yourself. If this is the type of game that you could see yourself playing, if you're somebody who likes to, you know, creep around in the grass in Ground Branch or Arma Reforger, this isn't going to be your type of game. Even though I really love those games, I also really, there's something about this fucking game that is so addicting to me. Anyways, I don't think this video is going to get a lot of love or a lot of views, because I don't think this is a game that a lot of you guys are into. But sometimes you just have to go out and I have to speak my truth. And truthfully, this is a game that's consuming a lot of my time. I'm not playing a lot of Arma. I'm not playing a lot of Hell Let Loose. I'm not playing our graders as much as I probably should be. Even though all of those games are great games, there's just something that constantly pulls me back here, and I wanted to make a video with a little bit of a prediction for 2026 in saying that I think this game is going to absolutely blow up when it launches, whether it's early access or whether it's a full release, I don't know. But mark my goddamn words, Deadlock is going to be absolutely huge when it launches, and I wanted to let you guys know in advance. As always, my name is BigFry. If you guys want to support the channel, leave a like on the video and subscribe. It's the best thing you guys can do. And for all the people who think that I just hate every game, there's another one for the tally. And as always, I want to know what you guys think. I have a feeling I can guess what the comments are going to be, but I want to know, does this game interest you? Do you care about Deadlock? Or are you guys still looking for something a little bit more grounded, a little bit more realistic, a little bit more tactical? Let's have a conversation down below. As always, my name is BigFry, and I'll see you on the next one.